Reactions we have. So we have 5 kinds of hypersensitivity reactions, but usually we don't talk about the 5th type. Okay. So I will be talking about the difference between type 5 hypersensitivity is quite similar to type 2 hypersensitivity. What will be the difference? I will be talking about that. So mainly we will be talking about hypersensitivity as 4 types. So we are having 4 types of hypersensitivity. Okay, what are these 4 types? Type 1 hypersensitivity. Yes, type 1 is anaphylactic. Okay, so we also call it as immediate hypersensitivity. Okay, so the other name for this one is immediate hypersensitivity. Second one is the
cell mediated.
Type 2, it's not cell mediated. Cell mediated is which one? Cell mediated is type 4. Okay, let me tell you the major difference. First of all, we are having 4 kinds of hypersensitivity. Type 1, type 2 and type 3 are antibody mediated hypersensitivity, which means you will be using your antibodies. Okay, which kind of antibodies? I will be talking about that later. Okay, type 4 hypersensitivity is not antibody mediated, it is the cell mediated hypersensitivity. Okay, now type 1 is immediate one, type 2 is cytotoxic. Type 3, in type 3 you will be having immunocomplex. Okay, what is immunocomplex? What is immune complex? Yeah, immune complex is whenever the antigen binds with the antibody. Okay, and that complex we call it as immune complex or immunocomplex. Okay, we'll be talking about how this immunocomplex will be disturbing your machinery of the body later on. So type 4 hypersensitivity is cell mediated, right? Type 4 hypersensitivity is cell mediated and also called as delayed hypersensitivity. It's also called as delayed hypersensitivity. Almost it takes about 48 hours to show its action. For example, you are having Mantoux tuberculin test to diagnose the tuberculosis, right? And that is the classical example of type 4 hypersensitivity. Now examples are very important because they give you any kind of scenario, and that scenario you have to identify which kind of disease they are talking about. Now accordingly, whenever you will be able to recognize that which kind of disease is this one. So for example, they are talking about tuberculosis. Okay, so you have to identify which kind of hypersensitivity they are talking about. Okay, some questions they can ask. For example, they are talking about the test, for example, Mantoux tuberculin test. Okay, in which we used to diagnose the TB. Okay, they will not give you the types, type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4. What is the option? They will give you the examples from these hypersensitivities. For example, they will give you the allergy. For example, they will give you the asthma in first option. They will give you the Goodpasture syndrome in second one. They will give you the SLE, systemic lupus, from the third one, and they can give dermatitis. So you have to know that which kind of example belongs to which kind of hypersensitivity. So accordingly, in this case, dermatitis will be the correct answer. Okay, these questions will be maybe asked in I form. They will not be asking such kind of questions in Croc. Okay, so you have to prepare your mind according to both the exams. Okay, so let's start with the type 1 hypersensitivity. Okay, for the new students, just now I have discussed about the hypersensitivity reactions. There are 4 kinds of hypersensitivity reactions: type 1, type 2, type 3 and type 4. Type 1 is also called as immediate, type 2 is also called as the cytotoxic, type 3 is also called as immunocomplex, and type 4 is cell mediated and also called as delayed kind of hypersensitivity. Type 1, type 2, type 3 are antibody mediated, and type 4 is cell mediated. Okay, type 4 is cell mediated. Okay, now let's talk about the type 1 hypersensitivity first of all. Okay, shall I rub the board? So let's talk about the mechanism, let's talk about the pathophysiology behind the type 1 hypersensitivity, how the person may get type 1 hypersensitivity. Then we will be talking about the signs and symptoms for such patients, how you can identify such patients who are having the type 1 hypersensitivity, which kind of immunoglobulin is responsible for causing the type 1 hypersensitivity, right? So let's begin with the type 1. Type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. Okay. So first of all, which kind of immunoglobulin is involved? Yeah, immunoglobulin E. Okay, immunoglobulins are also called as antibodies. How many kinds of immunoglobulin do we have? 5. Yeah. So you can remember them with the mnemonic G, A, M, E, and D. Okay. Gamed. Okay. So IgG, IgA, IgM, IgE, and IgD. Okay. Fine. So immunoglobulin E is involved in the type 1 hypersensitivity reactions. Okay. Now let's imagine one scenario. Okay. That will help you in imagine the situation, what is happening actually as far as pathophysiology is concerned of type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. So let's say a guy who is having the allergy to some pollen grains, and he is having usually seasonal kind of allergy. For example, spring season comes, okay, and there you are having, you know, falling of the leaves from the trees and all these things are happening. He went into the garden. First of all, he doesn't know yet that he is having some kind of allergy to these some kind of pollen grains. Okay, he went into the garden. What happens is he will be inhaling those pollen grains with the air. Okay, as the air goes in, with that pollen grains are also coming into the lungs eventually of that particular person. Now still he will be going home and nothing will be happening. Okay, no problem at all. No signs of hypersensitivity will be seen in such patients. Okay, so till here what actually happened in that particular person. Okay, so let's say we are having the macrophage over here. Okay, let's say this is the macrophage. I'm just simply writing M. Okay, this is the macrophage over here, and you know, macrophage is also called as antigen presenting cell, APC. Macrophage is also called as antigen presenting cell. Whatever pollen grains he was inhaling, those are the antigens for the body. Those are the antigens for the body. Okay, so here let's say this is the site over the macrophage, and over here this is the pollen grain. This is the antigen, right? This is the antigen. Now macrophage is having the antigen, and macrophage is also called as antigen presenting cell. This is the APC, antigen presenting cell. Now he will be showing this antigen to the T cells, to the T helper cells. Okay, that's why we are calling them as antigen presenting. They present the antigen to the T helper cells. Now as these macrophages will present the antigen to the T helper cells will be coming over here. So let's say here is the T helper cell. Okay, I'm writing it simply T. Here is the T helper cell. It will be binding over here. Okay, and this formation of this complex over here, we call it as primer. We call it as primer. So this is the primer over here. This formation is called as primer. Okay, some people call it as rosette formation. Okay, some people call it as rosette formation. Okay, so we are having this formation, we are having this complex primer over here. Till now everything is clear. Now what will happen? T helper cells will take the help of B cells. T helper cells will take the help of B cells. So here are the B cells. Okay, here are the B cells. As the B cells will be activated, they will activate the plasma cells. They will activate plasma cells. Plasma cells are also called as plasmocyte. Okay, plasmocyte. And what is the function of plasmocyte or plasma cell? Plasma cell produces the immunoglobulin or antibody. In this case, which kind of immunoglobulin will be produced? Immunoglobulin E will be produced. So here is the immunoglobulin E production. Immunoglobulin E production. Okay. So till this position, we were having the immunoglobulin E production. So first time when he went into the garden and he inhaled the pollen grains with the air, so what happened? Macrophages present the antigen to the T helper cells. Then T helper cells take the help of B cells. B cells will be activating plasma cells. Plasma cells will be producing immunoglobulin E. Till now everything is fine. No signs and symptoms have been seen. Now so what happened till now? Immunoglobulin E is there inside the blood of this person. Okay, but before immunoglobulin E was not present. Okay, now immunoglobulin E is there. Let's say on the next day again he visited the garden. Okay, again he went into the garden. Same thing will be happening. Pollen grains will be going inside the lungs of that person, right? Now, because this person is having immunoglobulin E, you are having mast cells inside your body. You are having mast cells. So let's say here are the mast cells. Okay, let's say these are the mast cells over here. Okay, now these mast cells, you know, immunoglobulin is there. Immunoglobulin will be binding to these mast cells. Okay, so let's say these immunoglobulin, they will be binding to these mast cells. These are the immunoglobulin E. Again the pollen grain will come inside, which means antigen is coming inside. Now this antigen will be binding to these antibodies, right? This is the antigen. This is the antigen. As this antigen will be binding to the immunoglobulin, okay, this mast cell will be activated. Mast cell will be activated. And these mast cells are filled up with inflammatory cytokines. You know, histamine, heparin, leukotrienes, all these things are filled up over here. Okay, and as these mast cells will be activated, it will be degranulating. It will degranulate. Degranulate means it will be bursting off, and whatever content is present inside this mast cell, it will be coming in the blood vessels. Okay, so what are the contents? These contents are histamine. Okay, histamine is the major one. Histamine can be there, heparin can be there, some kind of leukotrienes can be there, some kind of prostaglandins can be there. Okay, so these kind of products are present inside the mast cells, but major one you should remember is histamine. So now what happened is histamine is present in the blood circulation. Okay, now what are the functions of histamine? Histamine is a potent vasodilator. Okay, so now what will happen? Let's say this is the blood vessel. Let's say this is the blood vessel present over here, and we are having histamine inside the blood vessel. Okay, what the histamine will do? Histamine will increase the permeability of the blood vessel. Histamine will increase the permeability of the blood vessel. So now whatever fluid is present over here, okay, it will try to leak into the tissues, right? It will be leaking out into the tissues, because here, you know, you are having the tissues present over here. These are the tissues, let's say. These are tissues. Okay, so can I say this person may be having edema later on because fluid is getting into the tissues? What will be happening over here? What will be happening to the blood flow inside the blood vessel? Blood flow inside the blood vessel will be decreased. What will happen to the blood pressure? Decreased. Later on, this patient may be having shock. What is the shock? What is the definition of the shock? Lowering of the blood pressure. Okay, so this person may have shock. Which kind of shock this person may have? Anaphylactic shock. Anaphylactic shock. Okay, to overcome from the shock, okay, you give them adrenaline or epinephrine intramuscularly. Okay, fine. So you give them epinephrine for the treatment purpose. Okay, epinephrine for the treatment purpose, you give them epinephrine. Okay, till now everything is clear how this mechanism is happening. What about the pathophysiology? Okay, so once again I am repeating. First of all, this person visited to the garden for the first time. He will be having production of immunoglobulin E meanwhile. So what will happen? Antigen will be binding to the macrophage. This is the macrophage. Okay, now macrophage will be presenting this antigen as their antigen presenting cell. They will be presenting this antigen to the T helper cells. T helper cell will be activating the B cells. B cell will be activating the plasma cells. Plasma cell will be producing the immunoglobulin E. As this person will be visiting next time to this garden, as the pollen grains will be coming inside the lungs of this person, what will happen then? This immunoglobulin which has been produced, they will be binding to the mast cells, and the antigen or pollen grain will be binding to the immunoglobulin E. Now again, what will be happening? Mast cell will be activated. As the mast cell will be activated, it will degranulate. If it will degranulate, inflammatory cytokines will be releasing out from this mast cell. What are these inflammatory cytokines? These are the histamine, heparin, leukotrienes, prostaglandins, and all these things, right? Histamine is the potent one. Now histamine, we know this is the vasodilator. It increases the permeability of the blood vessel, right? Okay, so vessel will be dilating. blood pressure will be dropping, blood flow will be dropping, so blood pressure will be dropping. This person may be having shock. Anaphylactic shock can be seen in such patient in severe situations. Okay, so this was about the type 1 hypersensitivity. Everyone is clear? Yeah? Okay, so what can be the example you can see over here? First of all, what can be the example? There is one simple mnemonic for remembering the hypersensitivities, and the mnemonic is ACID, ACID. Okay, this is type 1, type 2, type 3 and type 4. Okay, for now I am considering about type A. Okay, meanwhile keep this in mind. Okay, how this mnemonic will be adjusting over here. So A4, yeah, so I am writing, shall I write examples over here? Okay, so yeah, so A4, it can be any kind of allergy. So any kind of allergy will be coming in the category of type 1 hypersensitivity. Any kind of anaphylactic shock, which is the very dangerous situation, anaphylactic shock will be also coming in the category of type 1 hypersensitivity. A4, asthma will be coming into the category of type 1 hypersensitivity. What is happening in the asthma, bronchial asthma? It is a kind of COPD. Now because fluid is coming outside the blood vessel, okay, it can cause bronchoconstriction. It can cause bronchoconstriction. So what is happening? If the bronchoconstriction will be happening, oxygen will not be able to go properly inside the lungs, okay, and CO2 will not be able to come outside. So CO2 will be trapped inside the lungs. Hypercapnia situation can be there. In such situation, respiratory acidosis can be seen. Okay, so asthma is also the example for type 1 hypersensitivity reactions. Any doubt? No. So type 1 hypersensitivity is clear, I hope, right? Okay, shall we move on to the next hypersensitivity? Next hypersensitivity is the type 2 hypersensitivity. Okay, so mnemonic goes like this, that A, every example starts with the A. So allergy, anaphylactic shock, asthma are the examples coming in the category of type 1 hypersensitivity reactions. Fine? Okay, so let's move on to the type 2 hypersensitivity reaction. Okay, fine. So shall I rub this, or you need some time to note it down? I can rub, right? Fine. Okay, so now let's talk about the type 2 hypersensitivity reactions. Okay, so if you talk about this mnemonic, C stands for cytotoxic. So type 2 hypersensitivity is the cytotoxic hypersensitivity. Okay, so if you will break down this term, cyto means cell and toxic means something bad is going to happen to that cell. So cytotoxic. Now how this thing will be happening? So type 1 hypersensitivity had immunoglobulin E, type 2 and type 3. They are also antibody mediated. As I said, type 2 and type 3 will be using IgG and IgM. IgG and IgM. Okay, so type 2. So let's talk about now type 2 hypersensitivity. Okay, so which kind of immunoglobulin will be using IgG and IgM. Now remember that immunoglobulin M is for the acute infections or recent infections. Acute or recent infections. IgG is for the chronic infections. IgG is for the chronic infections. Okay, so now what will be happening? IgG and IgM, okay, these are the soluble antibodies inside the blood vessel. Okay, these are the soluble antibodies. Now what will happen? These antibodies will be flowing in the blood vessels. Okay, let's say these are the IgG and these are the IgM. Okay, these are the IgM. These antibodies are simply flowing. These are the soluble antibodies and they are flowing inside the blood vessel. Okay, now what will happen? These IgG and IgM, they will bind to the cell surface. They will bind to any kind of cell surface. Now what is the difference between type 2 and type 5 hypersensitivity? However, we will be not discussing type 5 in detail. Type 2 and type 5 hypersensitivity. In the type 2 hypersensitivity, they will be binding to the cell surface. For example, this is the cell, okay. On the surface of this cell, these antibodies will be binding, okay. So IgG and IgM are binding onto the surface of this cell. In type 5 hypersensitivity, same kind of antibodies are there, but the difference is, let's say this is the cell over here, okay. These cells are having their receptors. So let's say these are the receptors present over here, okay. These are the receptors present over here, and onto these receptors these antibodies will be binding, okay. For example, these antibodies are binding to these receptors of the cell. So basically, what is the difference? In type 5 hypersensitivity, they will be binding to the receptor of the cell. In type 2 hypersensitivity, they will be binding to the surface of the cell. Okay, this is the major difference between type 2 and type 5 hypersensitivity. So this was about the type 2 and this was about the type 5 hypersensitivity. Okay, you don't need to remember about type 5 hypersensitivity. Any single MCQ will not be asked on the type 5 hypersensitivity. Okay, so you have to consider about type 1, type 2, type 3 and type 4 hypersensitivity. Okay, so coming back to the type 2 hypersensitivity, so these immunoglobulins are simply these are the soluble immunoglobulins flowing in the blood vessel. They will be binding to the cell surface. Okay, as they will be binding to the cell surface, they will be activating opsonization reaction, or they will be activating the complement system. Okay, and finally with the help of this system, this cell will be destroyed. That's why we say this hypersensitivity as cytotoxic hypersensitivity. Okay, so with the help of binding of these immunoglobulins to the cell surface, they will be activating the opsonization complement system. Now what will be happening in the complement system actually? By the activation of these complement system series, okay, they will be puncturing this cell. As the cell will be punctured, water will enter inside this cell. As the water will enter inside the cell, the pressure inside the cell will be increasing, and then finally it will be burst off. Okay, so this is happening in the type 2 hypersensitivity. That's why we call it as type 2 cytotoxic hypersensitivity. Okay, clear this one? What can be the
these antibodies will attach to any cell in the body?
Yeah, any cell in the body. That's why, have you heard about myasthenia gravis? Look, myasthenia gravis is the autoimmune disease in which these are the autoantibodies bind to its own cell surface and destroy that. Okay, so some kind of machinery got disturbed inside your body, and due to that you have to suffer. Okay, so I will be talking about the examples. So let's say, so you understood with that doubt. So let's say, what are the examples? So we are having a long list of the examples in the type 2 hypersensitivity. Main examples I will be pointing out. So what are the examples over here? One more thing I would like to say, in the type 2 and type 3, I will be discussing about type 3 after this type 2. Type 2 and type 3, in the type 3 there is the formation of immunocomplex. Type 3 is also called as immunocomplex, right? Those immunocomplex will be arranging in irregular fashion. And this kind of type 2 hypersensitivity, these binding of the immunoglobulins to the cell surface, they will be arranging in a regular fashion. What is the significance of this one? Whenever there will be the immunofluorescence test of particular kind of tissues, you can find the differences between these two diseases. For example, what you need to remember for the USMLE step 1, okay, or the IFOM 1 will be quite easier one. I would like to remind over here, one is the example as Goodpasture syndrome from the type 2 hypersensitivity. Goodpasture syndrome, this is the example of type 2 hypersensitivity. Okay, here the pattern will be smooth. If you will be finding you will be having the findings in the immunofluorescence. Then in the type 3, there is an example, for example, post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis, PSGN. Okay, there you are having the lumpy bumpy appearance, like kind of irregular fashion. The immunocomplex will be arranging. For example, in the basement membrane of the kidneys, basement membrane, in the kidneys we are having the nephron is the structure and function unit of kidney, right? In the nephron, okay, you are having the glomerulus, okay, that Bowman's capsule, remember from your 12th standard textbooks. So what's there? There is a glomerular basement membrane, okay, which prevents any kind of plasma proteins to come into the urination. Whenever the problem is with the glomerular basement membrane, proteinuria may happen, which means protein is flowing out into the urine. So you are losing out your proteins. If you are losing out your proteins, protein will be deficient in your blood circulation, right? And if the protein will be deficient in the blood circulation, you may have edema. Okay, that is the glomerulonephritis. This is the bigger topic. You are having the nephrotic syndrome and nephritic syndrome. I am talking about nephritic syndrome over here, in which you are having the hematuria. PSGN, post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis. This is the example of type 3. This is the example of type 2. What you have to remember, this is appearing in the regular fashion, and this is in the irregular fashion. That's it. Don't need to remember anything else. Okay, fine. So I was talking about the type 2 hypersensitivity reactions example. So first example, you can write Goodpasture syndrome. Shall I rub this? Okay. Second, have you heard about erythroblastosis fetalis? Erythroblastosis fetalis, right? Something you may have heard about this in class 12th. There was one topic in NCERT book, right? Okay. Look, erythroblastosis fetalis, what was happening that to the pregnant lady, first child will be having no problem, but whenever she will be having the birth of second child, severe hemolysis may happen in that child, right? That was the erythroblastosis fetalis. When I will be discussing about the blood topic, I will be talking about that topic in detail. But for now, erythroblastosis fetalis, okay, there is a severe complication of erythroblastosis fetalis is hydrops fetalis. Hydrops fetalis, which can be easily seen in the ultrasound. Okay, but what you have to remember is erythroblastosis fetalis is example of type 2 hypersensitivity. Okay, erythroblastosis fetalis. Fine. What else? Graves' disease. What is Graves' disease? Okay, your thyroid hormone will be hyperactivated, your thyroid gland will be hyperactivated, okay, in which you are having the high production of T3 and T4, triiodothyronine and tetraiodothyronine, okay. Due to that, TSH will be lowered, okay. From the hypothalamus, you are having the thyroid releasing hormone, okay, thyroid releasing hormone, and from the anterior pituitary, you are having the release of thyroid stimulating hormone. It will go with the help of blood circulation, it will go to your thyroid gland and it will stimulate thyroid gland to release T3 and T4. Okay, if the T3 and T4 will be increased, which happens in the Graves' disease, there is a negative feedback loop over the TSH. There is negative feedback loop of the TSH. So if it will be increasing, TSH will be decreasing, which is the finding of the hyperthyroidism or the Graves' disease. Whenever you will be looking at the report of any kind of hyperthyroidism patient, you will be seeing T3 and T4 will be higher and TSH will be lower. Opposite kind of situation can be seen in hypothyroidism patient or Hashimoto thyroiditis. Okay, there T3 and T4 will be lowered, TSH will be higher. That is the case of hypothyroidism, in which patient gains the weight regularly. Okay, in this situation, in the Graves' disease, the patient will be losing the weight loss can be seen, right? So Graves' disease is also the example of type 2 hypersensitivity. Okay, what else? Pemphigus vulgaris. Pemphigus vulgaris, don't worry, this is the dermatological problem. You don't have dermatology yet. This is the 4th course subject. Dermatology, in dermatology, you will be studying about the pemphigus vulgaris, where the skin peels off. Okay, as you will be rubbing over the skin comes off. Okay, that is the pemphigus vulgaris. Comes under the category of type 2 hypersensitivity reaction. Okay, fine. So these are some examples of the type 2 hypersensitivity. One more example, acute rheumatic fever. Have you heard about it? Acute rheumatic fever. What is the etiological factor? Means like what is the reason behind this? Group A, beta amyloticus streptococcus. Okay, this is the bacteria which is responsible for causing the acute rheumatic fever. There you are having the complications, right? There is a Jones criteria, JONES, that is the major criteria. And if two of the major criteria match with the patient and one of the minor criteria match with the patient, you can say that these persons are having acute rheumatic fever. High doses of aspirin can confirm this diagnosis. Okay, don't need to remember that, but remember rheumatic fever is coming under the category of type 2 hypersensitivity reaction. So everybody is clear about the type 2? Okay, shall we move on to the next one? Next one is the type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. In the type 3 hypersensitivity reaction, we will be talking about immune complex formation. Fine. So shall I rub this portion? So let's talk about the type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. Okay, so type 3 hypersensitivity reaction is regarding the immunocomplex formation. And what is the immunocomplex? Which means there is the binding of antigen with the antibody or the immunoglobulin, right? So what will happen? There are the formation of autoantibodies inside your blood vessel. Formation of autoantibodies. These autoantibodies, let's say these are the autoantibodies. Okay, these are autoantibodies. They will be binding to the antigen present inside the blood vessel. Let's say these are the antigen. Okay, and you know this situation will be called as immunocomplex. These immunocomplex can be deposited at various sites inside your body. Okay, these immunocomplex will be deposited at various sites in your body in different places. I told you the example for post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis, PSGN, and they arrange in irregular form. Whereas in type 2 hypersensitivity, they were arranging in a regular fashion, right? So these are the immunocomplex. Let's say they deposited in the basement membrane. There they will be causing the post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis. Mainly they cause the nephritic syndrome, in which you are having the hypertension. These patients will be having hypertension. These patients will be having hematuria, which means blood is losing out in the urine. Okay, so what can be the example? Post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis can be one of the example. Then it can be Arthus reaction. Okay, it can be serum sickness. What is the serum sickness? Serum sickness, remember, serum sickness happens always whenever the patients are having some kind of antitoxic serum. For example, there is a case of snake bite. In which what the doctor will do, first of all, he will be giving antidote. So he will be giving antivenom. In this case, this patient may have serum sickness. So any kind of antitoxic serum, when the patient will be taking antitoxic serum, any kind of antivenom, this kind of patient will be having the serum sickness, and they will be falling in which category? Type 3 hypersensitivity. Okay, so serum sickness is also one of the example. And PSGN. Okay, remember that. And one of the example is SLE, which is the systemic lupus erythematosus. Okay, this is also an autoimmune disease, systemic lupus erythematosus. Anti-Smith antibody, anti-DNA antibodies, and all these things can be found. This thing you will be studying in your 4th course in internal medicine. Okay, so these are the examples for serum sickness, PSGN, post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis, and systemic lupus erythematosus. These things will be more clearer in your mind whenever you will be doing the MCQs. Okay, fine. You want to discuss the MCQs, or you want to give the test of those MCQs? You want to give test and then we will discuss. Fine. Okay, so that was about the type 3 hypersensitivity, that antigen and antibody complex, immunocomplex, will be deposited at various locations in your body in irregular fashion, and they will be destroying that particular kind of tissue. Okay, that is the example. That is the type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. Okay, now coming over to the type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. Okay, so what was the mnemonic? Acid, right? A for the type 1, C for cytotoxic, which was the type 2, I for the type 3, right? So I means immunocomplex, and they will be having lumpy and bumpy kind of pattern. Lumpy bumpy means irregular kind of fashion. In the type 3 only, right? We were having the mnemonic as ACID. Okay, type 1, type 2, type 3 and type 4. So I for immunocomplex as well as I for lumpy and bumpy appearance can be seen. Okay, which is the irregular fashion. Fine. So D4, fourth one.
Delayed.
D4 delayed kind of hypersensitivity. So let's move on to the type 4 hypersensitivity. Okay. So everybody is clear till now? So now let's talk about the type 4 hypersensitivity. Now remember, type 4 hypersensitivity reaction is not taking the help of any kind of antibody. There is no involvement of antibody. This is the cell mediated. This is cell mediated. Okay, these are the cell mediated hypersensitivity reactions. Okay, fine. Now what will be happening? As I said, these are the cell mediated. Let's say here are the CD4 plus cells. CD4 plus cells, they will be taking the help of the T helper cells. T helper cells. Okay, and here is the some kind of these receptors for any kind of allergen. Okay, or antigen, I would say. So here some kind of antigen comes. It will activate this CD4 plus T helper cells. CD4 plus T helper cells. Okay, and it will directly cause the destruction of the cell. Destruction of that cell. Okay, there is one more option for going to this stage. There are one more kind of cell which is the CD8 plus T helper cells. CD8 plus T helper cells. That combination, what it can do, CD8 plus T helper cells. They usually take the help of macrophages. They take the help of macrophages. So first of all, they will report to the macrophage, and macrophage will, what is the function of macrophage? Phagocytosis, engulf that particular kind of cell. Okay, so by the help of macrophages also they can destroy the cell. By the help of CD4 plus T helper cells they can destroy the cell. Okay, one and the same thing. So there are two mechanisms, but they are not taking the help of immunoglobulins. That's why we call them as cell mediated hypersensitivity. Okay, but during this process they need some time. So usually they take about 1 to 2 days, 48 hours. About 48 hours is they take that time in completing this whole process. Okay, so first CD8 plus T helper cells, they will report to the macrophages. For example, these are the macrophages, and then macrophages will do phagocytosis. Okay, so one mechanism is this one, and second is this one, by the help of macrophages. Okay, what was the mnemonic? D for the delayed one. Okay, now we can remember the examples with the help of D also. So the examples will be D for dermatitis. So dermatitis, contact dermatitis mainly. Okay, dermatitis is the example of type 4 hypersensitivity. How the case can come, how you will know that he is asking about the dermatitis specifically? The scenario will be like this. Some kind of lady was working in some wild kind of plants, okay, wild kind of bushes, and while doing the work she was having some kind of scratches on the skin. Okay, and due to that they will be giving you the image of that particular skin part. Okay, and that is also called as poison ivy dermatitis. This specific kind of plant which is very specific for causing this dermatitis, that is the poison ivy. So it causes the poison ivy dermatitis. Okay, it takes the time 48 hours, it takes about 48 hours to complete this whole scenario. So it will be included in which kind of hypersensitivity? Type 4 delayed hypersensitivity. Okay, dermatitis. Fine. Next, what you can say? It is helpful in diagnosing you TB. Mantoux tuberculin test. Again, it takes about how much duration? 48 hours. It will be also including in which kind of hypersensitivity? Delayed kind of hypersensitivity or type 4 hypersensitivity. Okay. So D4 delayed hypersensitivity, D4 dermatitis, D4 diagnose TB. Okay, understood? Yeah.
I want to ask that in Bruton's disease,
Bruton's disease.
how will the person will combat such situation if there is no antibody?
Okay, no, you have to give them intravenously immunoglobulins to those patients. So treatment is they are having so they will be having recurrent bacterial infections. Okay, in those patients because they are lacking the immunoglobulin. If you don't have the immunoglobulin, how will you tackle the bacteria? Right? So in that case, immediately you need to give them intravenous immunoglobulins and check the levels of immunoglobulins again and again at a regular interval of time. Okay, clear? Fine. So this was about the type 4 hypersensitivity. So we have talked about the type 1, we have talked about the type 2, 3 and 4 hypersensitivity. Okay. Let's have a quick recap of all the hypersensitivity. So in the type 1 hypersensitivity, what I told you, first of all, this is the immediate hypersensitivity. What was the example? Allergy, asthma and anaphylactic reactions. Okay. What you may give intramuscularly, you may prescribe them epinephrine or adrenaline, right? So what was happening? Pathophysiology I will not repeat, that will be much bigger part. Okay, so you know that in your mind, right? In the type 2 hypersensitivity, that was the cytotoxic hypersensitivity. What was the difference between type 2 and type 5 hypersensitivity? I'm talking about the difference between type. Yeah. So type 2 hypersensitivity, immunoglobulins, these are the soluble immunoglobulins. They will be binding to the cell surface. I'm talking about type 2. In type 5, they will be binding to the receptors of that cell. What is the difference between type 2 and type 3? Regular and irregular. Which one is regular? Type 2 is regular, smooth. C4, cytotoxic. C4, that will be a spelling mistake, but you can remember for your sake. Smooth. Okay. Actually, it is S, but remember with the smooth C. Okay. So smooth kind of pattern will be there. Regular kind of fashion will be there. Okay. Fine. What was about the third one? It was immunocomplex. Type 3 was immunocomplex. Post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis. Right? What can? Serum sickness. Okay, these were the example of type 3 hypersensitivity reactions. SLE was also one of those. What was the example of type 2 hypersensitivity reactions? Erythroblastosis fetalis, Graves' disease, Goodpasture syndrome. Which one? Acute rheumatic fever. So these were the examples of type 2 hypersensitivity reaction. What are the example of type 4? Dermatitis can be there. TB can be diagnosed with the help of type 4 hypersensitivity reactions. Okay. So this was about the hypersensitivity reaction. So now we will be talking about the MCQs. Okay.